been started, I'm now going to hand over to Jay.
Excellent, good stuff. Thanks for that, Faye. So welcome to today's webcast. We're going to be talking about the Power Platform and how it could help your organisations. So to kick things off, we've got the agenda here. So we'll do some introductions on who we're presenting today. We've got a couple of people from across Visual, and we've got some from Microsoft as well. We'll then talk about business problems. So these are all things that you'll be facing on a sort of day-to-day, how the Power Platform is formed, and ultimately how the Power Platform can help you with those challenges. We'll then go on to look at some client examples from both Visual and Microsoft, and maybe you'll see some similarities between your organisation and these examples. And then if you've got any questions at the end, we're happy to talk through them. If there's anything we can't pick up at the end in the Q&A, we can always arrange calls later on down the line, which I'm sure Freya or Michelle, who's on the call, will happily arrange for you. So if we kick into the speakers, you probably know me. I'm Jay Fitzhenry. I'm one of the business solution consultants here at Visual. My main technologies is around the Power Platform, dynamics, bits of data. There's a whole host of different things. And then we've got Susanna. Susanna, do you want to do a bit of an introduction?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Susanna Loop, and I'm the Data and AI Specialist here at Microsoft. I work with public sector customers on data modernization projects, and for many of you, I will be a part of your wider Microsoft account team. And really, I'm the gateway to the various resources for data and AI on our side here at Microsoft.
Excellent, good stuff. Frey, do you want to do an introduction?
Hi, I'm Freya. So I work within the marketing department. So we run and manage all the webcasts and all the social media going out. So if you have any questions about that, or you want to get in contact with us, there'll be a slide at the end with all our social medias on and our email address if you want to get in contact.
Great, good stuff. And then Michelle, if you want to take the floor from here, I know you've got a slide coming up.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Jay. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Hurd. I'm one of the account managers over at Visual. So I cover the public and the private sector and all the way through the transformation cycle. So whether that be cloud, business or digital, I can help you with sort of any transformation project that you might be on. So that leads me to the next slide, where for those of you who haven't worked with Visual before, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on who we are and what we can do for you. So we are experts in transformation. Our offerings are agile and unique. So they're the services that we offer to our clients. And the services cover consulting, services, skills, solutions. So we can help you realise your full potential. As an organisation, we are passionate about transforming business services, and we do have the embedded values of openness, honesty and trust. We take pride in delivering innovative technology and business services, and we do drive real benefits, enhancing productivity and driving new and deep insights to our customers. With a rich history, so we do span 15 years, so we deliver transformation programs across all industry sectors, and we are flexible and agile in our consultancy and managed services teams, and we provide a range of capabilities across the Microsoft and the AWS cloud. All our services focus on the needs of users, adapting technology to meet their needs, delivering sustainable change and achieving successful outcomes. We do have a people-first approach, and this allows us to continually invest in our staff and across our communities, building award-winning digital apprenticeship schemes and delivering in a pipeline of talent to our clients. Now, our staff do hold a variety of formal certifications, ranging from MCSA through to Agile, Lean and Praxis Framework methodologies. And this highlights our continual investment in our people to make sure that we can provide the best services to our clients. Our transformation services help our clients achieve positive outcomes. So we help them to inspire and retrain their staff. And this increases digital skills and creates new revenue streams for our customers who we work with. And we achieve this by integrating business and IT strategy and reimagining business processes. And this allows our clients to offer new services to their employees and their customers. So the way we go to market, we focus on cloud, business and digital transformation. So these are what we consider the three key pillars of our business. So cloud transformation is quite a hot topic at the minute. So whether that's data center transformation, so moving your IT services to the cloud, or whether you want to look at modern workplace, so the way you manage your IT and deliver productivity solutions, or even a multi-cloud. So as I mentioned, we do have AWS capability, so we can help you look at several versions of the cloud. And a key part of our cloud offering is also our optimization. So making sure that we keep those cloud consumption costs down for you. And Visual are an accredited and Azure Expert MSP. So this puts us in the top 0.02% of partners globally for cloud transformation. So you can be rest assured that you are dealing with the experts. Now, our business transformation portfolio combines modern technology with strong people change management approaches. So this is where we look at your internal processes and delivering modern automated systems to support your business operations. So this is where we'll look at your internally facing business processes, the things that you do as part of your job, and we can engage one of our business analysts and start with a business case, help you identify what you're looking to achieve, and then we can show you how you're going to do it. And then just to touch on digital transformation, so our digital transformation portfolio focuses on the needs of users, designing and delivering new ways to engage with your customers across multiple channels. So we can help you create your digital vision, re-envisioning customer experience, operations, business models, and basically helping you succeed in an increasingly competitive and dynamic world. And this is where we can help our clients digitize their services to create new revenue streams and growth. So Visual are a Microsoft Gold partner, and that's across 12 competencies, and Silver partner for 3. So this gives our clients access to over 70 subject matter experts who all hold current Microsoft certifications in their specialist fields. As a Microsoft Gold partner in several competencies, Visual will have a team of technical consultants, architects, and solution specialists to help our clients on their technical roadmap. So no matter what journey you're on, you can be rest assured that you're dealing with the experts. And I'm now going to hand over to Jay. Thank you.
Excellent, good stuff. Thanks for that, Michelle. So just touching on those 3 pillars again, yeah, a lot of you will probably realise that in any business, you're going to be touching on cloud transformation, business and digital. And one of the key purposes of today's webinar is to touch on the business transformation elements, specifically the Power Platform, which you can probably see in the top right of that box. So then, if I push on. So what I'd like to touch on first is some of the business problems that you're probably facing. So if we identify some of the key areas in your businesses, one thing that comes to mind is that more and more businesses are gathering substantial amounts of data. Now, that data could be from multiple end-user applications. It could be from applications on sort of just devices, working on servers. It could be auto-generated alerts from IoT devices. The emphasis is on the amount of data that's coming through. More importantly, is that quite a few, well, not many businesses actually succeed in analysing that data. Now, that could be because it's difficult to obtain. It could be because they've got multiple systems that don't communicate with one another, so actually creating reports is quite difficult. So it's you know, analysing that much data can be quite difficult, and as a result, not many businesses do action it. Adding on to that, a lot more people in the workforce are wanting to use multiple devices, specifically mobile devices, and these not only include sort of mobile phones, but also laptops, things that they can physically take around with them. And increasingly more so, people are wanting to use mobile phones as well. So when we come to actually developing applications, a lot of people are preferring to use that mobile device. Now, when it actually comes to building these applications, typically, the average cost of one of these is on about 170,000 in this case dollars per year. But that can very quickly increase beyond that amount. And if you've ever worked on large development projects, that can potentially be in the millions of pounds, depending on what the application is used for. And all of these things involve the business. So quite a lot of the time, you'll have multiple key stakeholders in the organization. Sometimes it's difficult to get them to agree on the same thing. Sometimes it's difficult to, get hold of them. So what we're going to try and cover later on today is to explain how all these things can be fixed using the Power Platform. So if we look at some of the challenges then, one thing that always comes to mind is time to market. So if you want to create an application, if you want to automate business processes, it takes time, it takes resources, and not all, usually those things aren't available. There's always budget constraints. So maybe you want to add a bit of extra functionality, but actually it's going to cost you an extra 10 grand to do it. How can you justify it? A lot of the time there are paper processes. So it's quite difficult to know whereabouts you are on a project sometimes. And with the added complex processes, it's very difficult to then have that traceability throughout the engagement. Adding on to this, we then look at these sort of business and IT alignment. So as you're building applications or you're automating business processes, what can sometimes happen is you end up with a lot of shadow IT. So these are spreadsheets and places where you didn't expect them. These are applications that aren't managed by maybe a central IT team. I'm sure there's probably more than one of you out there who has got people in their team who have been using Access databases. Believe it or not, they're still a thing. And once you have these databases all over the place, it gets really difficult to track. There's also the thing around changing business expectations. So we've had one organization who went through a massive business transformation exercise, and everyone got on board. They ended up with a big success, but sometimes that might be difficult for small organizations. So what we'll try and do as well is touch on how the Power Platform can help you with this. Adding on to that further, we look at the lack of insights. So you may have multiple applications, you're generating multiple data streams, but because they don't speak to one another, because there's not necessarily a central data repository, it's very difficult to get any sort of BI integration. It's very difficult to create reports. It's very difficult to report back to your organization on what they're expecting to see from that data. More often than not, what you'll find is if a bunch of budget is released for an application, the actual business owners want to understand what impact that budget has had, and BI integration is one way of helping you do that. That then goes on to the next point of measuring performance. So if you've ever used something like Tableau or Click, you can create different measures in there to show you how performant a team is or how performant a project is. And then something that kind of encompasses it all is if you're building applications, usually it's built on potentially legacy systems. In the event of the Power Platform, that's not so much the case, but we'll touch on that. If you are using legacy systems, you've also got the security and compliance of those. So that's keeping them up to date, including making sure they've got the latest patch level, making sure that you've got the latest physical security in place. Which, if you were to move to the cloud, you don't need to think about those as much. So, Power Platform. So we're broken it up into the same sort of areas. So the idea behind the Power Platform is that it's a little bit more affordable. So you're not having to worry about physical infrastructure. Because it's relatively straightforward to start creating applications, the turnaround's are quite quick, and you don't have those typical resource constraints as you would traditionally. Something that used to be a paper-based process, you could update that, turn it into this virtual process, which makes it a little bit easier to track. And if we can start simplifying these processes, everyone gets on board with a simplified process. The next step is you get to know your data. So rather than having multiple spreadsheets located all over the place, rather than having access databases or silos of data that you can't traditionally access, because it's all in one place, it's all in that same platform, you can access it at any time, you know where that data is located, and adding on to the security components, you know how to secure it. Then we look at the lack of insights. So again, typically a lot of people can't get as much information out of their data as they'd like to, but using the Power Platform, you've got some tools in there that help you tap into that untapped knowledge. And the total cost of ownership is reduced. It's a licensing fee rather than looking after physical infrastructure. Your data is secured in the cloud, and if you're using things like 365, Azure, and any other cloud service provider, there's quite a few security things which are just hard baked into the product. There's some extra bits for the Power Platform, but we can talk on that later on. And what's probably really useful for a lot of you in the call is if you are on 365, the odds are you already have something called use rights. Now, what those use rights allow you to do is start creating apps straight away without purchasing any more licenses, essentially free of charge, in quotes. So if you can use your existing technology, all you need to worry about is getting someone trained up, which can be done in a day, and then you can start utilizing what we're going to talk about on today's call. So one of the first components of the Power Platform is something called Power Apps. I think some of you may have heard of this already, and if you've ever used Dynamics 365, you would have heard of Power Apps based on some of their recent changes. Now, what these apps allow you to do is build different types of applications. So you have things like Canvas apps, model-driven apps. I won't bore you with all those details, but essentially these are applications that can help you automate business processes. They allow you to capture data from the different sources. These could be people out in the field. These could be people in the office, entire teams of people. There's a variety of different uses there. Adding on to this, not only can this data import into existing data sources, so if you have things like SQL databases, if you have online data sources, if you want to keep using Excel, you can always write into that still. But more importantly, there's a managed database that comes along with Power Apps called the Common Data Service. And what that allows you to do is create a bunch of tables, a bunch of relationships, all the good databasey stuff, but without knowing any SQL, which is sort of a big thing. It's all done through a UI. And although it does come with a slightly increased licensing cost, it is sort of marginal and shouldn't massively affect your business. One of the key points we've got on there is connecting to existing data. Now, there's 260 plus built-in connectors that you can use with Power Apps, and these are leveraged throughout the Power Platform. Adding on to this, if you have potentially data sources that aren't available out of the box, you can create custom connectors, and again, this is all possible through the inbuilt UI. And then underpinning all of this is that strong enterprise governance and security. So not only does the Power Platform have that hard baked into it, because it's part of 365, you can apply the same sort of policies and rules that you have in place there. So these are things such as data loss prevention. Now we've touched on Power Apps, which is sort of your data entry. Now we're looking at the automation. So we're looking at processes, how that data moves around your system, how you engage the rest of your business. So looking at Power Automate, what we can do is create either really simple flows. So these are things when a record is updated or maybe a new bit of data is created. A email could be triggered off the back of it and send that to end users. That's sort of a simple example. All the way to an advanced example where we have a process internally where people request new Power BI reports. They can enter data into an MS form. That can then trigger a flow. It creates a record in Planner and SharePoint and emails the developers so they're aware of that report request. There's quite a few things you can do with Flow. If you drive into it a little bit more, there's things called business process flows. So if you've ever used Dynamics 365, you know there's business process flows that could take users through a step-by-step flow of how they can input data into a record, and those business process flows are surfaced in Power Apps as well. What we also have as part of Power Automate are the same pre-built custom connectors as found in Power Apps. So you're not limited to a subset of connectors. You have those already available, and as a result, they're available across the Power Platform stack, which is nice. Looking at the enterprise governance and security, again, is a 365 service, so you have those policies being applied. And again, if we touch on data loss prevention, you can limit how data flows within the organization. So if you have data sources which you've identified as holding business data, you can prevent those from being shared externally, which is, I'm sure quite a few of you will be happy with that. And then there's the extensibility that you can get in Azure using things like Logic Apps. I'm not going to touch on those too much today because they're not really in the Power Platform. But if you did want to have some more advanced flows, you can use some of the Azure services, which do require a little bit of code, but nothing major. And then finally, we're looking at Power BI, which is probably something that most of you have heard of, if anything. So here we can connect into all those, again, existing data sources. We can connect into the data that's been stored in Power Apps. We can get insights out to users in the business. We can alert them with changes. More importantly, we're bringing that insight back to the business. So that traditionally where it was difficult to get that information out of your services, Power BI can connect to either a single or multiple, and then really help you model that data. Now, quite a few of you will probably be on the developer side, and if you do like working with SQL, if you do like doing all your modeling in things like analysis services, that's all possible still, and Power BI will just hook into that existing infrastructure and give you that insight. One of the nice things with the entire Power Platform is you don't necessarily need to invest into all three of those products immediately. You can do it one at a time. So if your immediate problem is to capture data, we can look at using Power Apps. Maybe you have email notifications that you want to send out and it's currently quite difficult to do so. That's when we can look at Power Automate. And Power BI is always a good one to pick up because that can integrate with your existing services. And we've got some client examples later on where we'll talk to you about how Power BI and how the rest of the Power Platform has been used. So in summary, then we've got Power BI, which is for your end user reporting, which is a really nice tool. Power Apps for entering that data, and Power Automate for automating that flow. Now, this is the backbone of the Power Platform, and there's a couple of other services that hook into this. So if we work on the top, we have things like Dynamics 365. There's quite a few products in there, which you may have heard of, customer service, sales, field service, marketing, there's many. And with all these new products, that data is being stored directly into a common data services database. Now, as I've kind of touched on earlier, that is that single source of the truth. And if you can get existing business applications to write into that data store, you're onto a winner. If you look at 365, you've got a variety of products in there, such as Teams. And one of the nice things with the Power Platform is at every stage of the process, that can be embedded into Teams. So you could have a tab for Power BI. You could have a tab to enter data using Power Apps. You could have a tab to send off email notifications to a list of users. If we look at Azure, we can use things like Data Lake, and we can start syncing data from the Common Data Service into Azure and leveraging more of the data platform. So using some of these advanced analytic tools. Typically, they require a little bit more expertise, but again, the Power Platform is not a limiting factor there. You can still get some of those basic insights. Adding on to that, as soon as you start using some of the Azure services, you can start building on that added security. And probably the more important thing for a lot of you guys is accessing your business apps and data. So rather than having to sort of reinvent the wheel, you can just deploy one of the products from the Power Platform and integrate it with that existing business data. Underpinning this, we've got the data connectors. So there's, I think, 260 plus data connectors that you can access, or you can create your own custom ones. You have the AI builder, where we can start picking up text from images. We can start identifying objects in images. There's quite a lot of work being done with the AI builder at the moment, and it's probably something that a lot of you would be interested in. One of our clients, they use this to look at Twitter stats. So if someone sends them a post on Twitter, it'll pick it up, it'll work out what the sentiment is, if it's positive, negative, and depending on what the output output is it'll update a record in the Power Platform. And then you've got the common data service, which is that central data repository. So if we touch back on some of the solutions and challenges, gathering data, like I said, for a lot of businesses, data is generated from many different applications, many different pipelines. If you can bring that to Power Apps, so you have multiple Power Apps, that data will be stored in the same location. It'll be a single source of the truth, and it's a lot easier to manage. That way, you can actually make that data actionable. So due to the structured database that sits behind it, and as it's all in one place and it's all relational, hooking Power BI is well, very, very easy. You can leverage that existing data model, so you don't need the experience that traditionally SQL developers would have. You can get normal end users to use the tool, connect into the data, and start getting insight from that information. And on top of this, we have the Power Automate, so we can actually start automating some of these processes where we can integrate existing systems with the Power Platform. We can send notifications out to users. These notifications can go out to mobile devices, including mobile phones. And that's sort of a fact of all of this. So all three of these applications can be used on mobile phones and laptops. So you can take them around with you wherever you are. Adding on to this is usually quicker and cheaper. So one of the metrics on the previous slide was saying that, you know, you're looking at potentially £300,000 upwards for a line of business application. One of the visual engagements we have is a Power Platform Quick Start. So in 3 days, we can get your team using these applications, automating business processes, and gathering data into that single location at roughly £3,000. So that's, you know, that's a massive saving. And in the grand scheme of things, if you can get your team to actually start using these tools, that's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper in the long term. And at the core of all of this is keeping the business informed. So although you've got those key stakeholders who obviously are interested in what's being done, rather than having to engage with maybe the wider IT team or whoever else, they can start creating these applications. They can use the governance strategy that you put in place. And as a result, because these applications are all being stored in the cloud in a location that you know of, you don't have the risk of shadow IT, which is also quite a nice component. So what we try and do at Visual is we hit every step of this process, whether it being you're brand new to the Power Platform or you've been using it for quite a substantial amount of time. And if you do want to get started with it, we can help you in purely an advisory fashion to start off with. So that could be coming on site, giving you a bit of training here and there to get your team up and running with the tools. Or potentially as you're developing those tools, we can spend some time with you to make sure that you're following sort of best practice. Additionally, with this, we can give you updates on the new releases in the platform. I don't know if you're aware, but there's quite a large update happening in March this year, where they're integrating things like Virtual Agent, which has got really nice integration with Teams. And later on this year, I think around about August time, there's another big update that usually comes out. And that's the move in Dynamics to move away from the traditional interface to the unified interface. So there's quite a lot of work being done there. Next thing we look at is security compliance. So obviously there's a lot of data going into this platform, and you want to make sure that you know where that data is, how often people are accessing it, ensuring it's secure, and ultimately if you're storing personal information, making sure it's compliant. There's a lot of things out of the box with the Power Platform that help you govern that data. But if you want to look at things in 365, there's other policies and rules in place that can help you out with that. Going on to the data platform modernization, we've kind of touched on this a little bit earlier on. So this is using that data in that single data repository, hooking that up into Azure services and getting that advanced analysis, which a lot of you would be interested in. And then ultimately, a lot of this is quite generalized. So it'll be up to your users to actually create this content, create these applications. But Visual can come in with some bespoke services where we will happily create those applications which are industry aligned to what you guys are after. Now, to ensure that a Power Platform engagement is successful, or to ensure that it's adopted inside your organization, you're going to want to build a center of excellence, and we can help you with that as well. So these are people who will make sure that it's being used in the right way. You have a framework when developing applications. Your end users know what the tool is used for, how their data is being processed, and ultimately will result in your business being a lot more self-sufficient, rather than relying again on traditionally an analytics team or development team to create these for them. They can do it themselves with the guidance of central IT teams. This is when I like to touch on a couple of client examples. So these are places where we've gone in, we've done the work for them, and somewhere where you may pick some similarities between your businesses and these. So the first one I'd like to touch on is a HR service provider. So what we've done there is they were currently using Salesforce. I'm sure quite a few people here will be using Salesforce, and they found that it was difficult to develop against. It didn't provide the full suite of functionality that they were after. Reports were quite difficult to get out of it, and as a result, they were relying on third parties to do the work for them. So there's quite a few elements there that we could tackle. So first thing we did was deployed Dynamics 365, and we migrated all their data from Salesforce into the new suite of tools. Now, what that allowed them to do is they're now self-sufficient. They can make changes as and when needed. Dynamics has a really nice UI where development requires no code, and there's no additional licenses required to actually develop against it, which is sort of a difference from Salesforce. Adding on to this, they wanted to report on this data. So because it's all in the common data service, we can hook in Power BI. They can create those reports themselves and then feed that back to their board. So we've had quite a lot of impact there, and we're still working with them to this day. So their next steps are looking to integrate chatbots, get some analytics on their website. Quite a few other bits there as well. One of our next clients we work with is an air traffic service provider. So we've gone in there, we've deployed multiple Power Apps with them. So these are to automate existing business processes. That data is then captured obviously in the common data service, and we can then hook in things like Power BI and Flow for email notifications. There's quite a few bits and pieces there. Because of the nature of the business, there's quite a few different work streams, and they treat data in very separate ways. So not only can the Power Apps put data into the common data service, but we can also leverage that existing infrastructure. So we've utilized things like on-premise SQL databases, database as a service offerings in Azure. So there's quite a few elements there as well. We then had some car retailers who we've done work for. Now, instead of adopting the entire Power Platform, they've got an in-house development team who creates all their front-end applications, and they're quite comfortable maintaining that approach. So instead of adopting all those products, they purely looked at Power BI and how that can hook in, how that can pick up the data, and how we can create those reports. Adding on to this, because Power BI is updated monthly, there's quite a few new features, so we like to stay in touch. We like to update them on those new features, and where possible provide them training. Generally they're quite a self-sufficient team, and they sort of know what they're getting out of the tool. And then finally, and more recently, we've been working with several international charities. This one in particular are deploying Power Apps, Power Automate and Power BI, so the full Power Platform suite. This also utilizes the common data service. So again, they've got that central data repository where they can get the insight that they need. They can use the tools at their disposal. And not only is this going to be used for just one project, this can be used for multiple other projects inside the organization. Another nice thing with this is because of their current licensing structure, it's a lot more affordable to create these applications, and there's not any major additional cost there. So again, if you are currently using 365, it might be worth just looking at some of the Power App or Power Platform licensing guides to see if you have those use rights. The last thing we want is a price tag to put you off it, because a lot of people are already paying for it without actually knowing. So at this stage, I'd like to pass this on to Susanna, who will take us through one of the Microsoft stories.
Thank you. So the Microsoft story, yes. So you might be aware of Belron and Autoglass, which is one of their brands. They're a worldwide leader in glass repair. And to streamline some of their manual and time-consuming processes, the company adopted Power Apps. Now, at the beginning of their journey, many of their core internal processes were time-consuming. They were offering a really poor user experience, such as, let's say, updating multiple systems when a job was completed. They had many paper-based processes, so they needed to streamline them and to digitize them. Power Apps really appealed to the customer as it integrated well with their existing Microsoft technology, and it would run on mobile devices and was easy to learn for people who were not programmers. So, for example, previously people were working in the field and they needed to send emails and update a number of spreadsheets once they finished their tasks. So now this can all be easily done using Power Apps. And secondly, they have developed an app for company events, for example. They call it the Leadership app, where whenever they have an event on, they can post their own agenda, the list of attendees, and they also have a feedback capability within the platform. What the organization has found is that they can actually achieve really high cost savings because some of the apps developed in-house meant that Autoglass did not have to spend 40,000 per year with their external suppliers when it came to specific systems that have been replaced by these Power Apps. And the current situation really is that they're using more than 40 applications that have been developed in-house by one employee who at the beginning of the journey had no programming skills. So the apps are used across the business to improve efficiency, save money, and make it much easier for the staff to operate effectively. And that's really the Microsoft story in a nutshell.
So that's sort of a really good example of how, you know, you've got one person there who has never touched an app in their life. That's probably fair to say. And as a result, they've created a bunch of line of business applications that are used well across the organization. Susanna, just a quick one there. I take it those apps are being used by everyone from sort of, I guess, end line employees, the people in front of their clients, through to,
Exactly.
I guess, the execs. Yeah.
It would be used by the executives, by the engineers in the field, by people in HR, all across the business. And now the way they have actually developed their processes is that teams are going to the people developing Power Apps with new suggestions because the possibilities are just endless.
Yeah, no, excellent. That sounds really good. So if we push on to, we've got the Q&A section now. Just before we do anything else, if you do want to get in contact with us, we've got a couple of these social media platforms that you can get in contact with us, and we'll leave these on the screen. So if you do want to send anything through, you're more than welcome to, and then we'll touch on next steps after that. At this point, I'll let Freya take the floor so she can handle the Q&A.
Cool. Thanks, Jay. So at this moment in time, feel free to unmute your mics or drop a question in the conversation chat, and Jay or Susanna or Michelle will be happy to answer any questions. But if not, like we said, if we end the webcast and you have any more questions, then feel free to email into inquiries@visual.com. There'll also be a copy of the webcast sent to you after this, which you can share with your teams, or you can find it on YouTube. And then for any upcoming news, events, portfolio updates, anything like that, you can go to our Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram for anything visual. And I think it's just say thank you for joining.
Cool, perfect. Now, if anyone does want to get in contact with some of the engagements that we offer, again, if you contact inquiries@visual.com, we're more than happy to jump in and help you out. Excellent. So if there's no further questions, again, happy for you to get in contact with us. I guess we'll bring this webcast to an end.
Brill, I'll stop the recording now, but thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
See you then.
Thank you.